All right, so let me introduce to you guys to myself real quickly, and then I'll introduce today's guest. So I'm Ron, the founder of Two Maids A Mop. Started this way too long ago, 18 years ago when I was 11 years old, and somehow have been able to build it into the brand that we are today. And it's been a fun ride, to say the least. Along the way, we started franchising. At one point, we were opening corporate stores, and that was a really fun journey as well. But we kind of fell in love with the idea of franchising with people like yourself, because it really felt like instead of hiring someone in a local market, we could partner with someone in that local market, and instead of telling people what to do, we could talk about what we needed to do together, because we're now business partners instead of employer. And that was a theory at the time. It's turned into a reality that has been everything and then some in terms of positive direction. So obviously it's allowed the brand to grow and scale quickly, but more importantly, it's allowed us to really succeed in some strong markets that we probably would not have been able to be in without having that partnership type model. So franchising is one of the better decisions of my professional life for sure. And on top of all that, it's allowed me to meet some really intelligent, energetic, passionate entrepreneurs that get to share the love of the brand alongside me. And one of those is Josh Patton. Josh and his wife Emily live in the Temple, Waco, Texas area, and they're fairly new to our network, which is one of the reasons I'm glad that we're able to talk to him today, because oftentimes when we talk to interviews, and when you guys talk to, or not interviews, but when we talk to franchisees, and when you guys talk to the franchisees one-on-one, you're usually talking to someone that has been around the block for a while, for several years, and they're, sipping Mai Tais and fishing every day while somebody else works, and they just, need to figure out how to collect the money. Josh is getting close to that. They've done really well early on. He'll talk about that here in a minute, but Josh's experience is definitely more hands-on now because his business is still very young. And on top of that, he started it during COVID, like during the height of COVID, and somehow been able to really build a strong business. So Josh, feel free to introduce yourself as well, and then we'll start with some questions after that.
Yeah, sure. So I'm here in Texas, the Temple market, 45 minutes south of Waco, hour north of Austin. My background, I'm in sales. I do work full time. So I opened my store semi-absentee, 8 years in sales. I did a couple years, small pharmaceutical company out here in Temple, and then went to Spectrum Enterprise. I've been here for 7 years, very successful, love the company, lots of free time, provides lots of benefits. Starting a business for me was really not even on the radar. I never even thought about it probably 2 years ago. I kind of got an introduction with had a business meeting with a partner here at Spectrum, and there was a guy there that was opening a franchise, and it was like a blinds franchise or something in Austin. And anyway, he had a connection. She was a headhunter for franchises, kind of like a third party intermediary between the owners and the franchise headquarter companies like Two Maids. And we talked, and it's a second stream of income is really something I've wanted for a long time. My wife, she's a stay-at-home. We've got 3 kids, and anyway, met with her. She kind of turned me on to 2 or 3 different franchises. One was Two Maids, another was a painting company. Had a lot of good conversations with the previous sales development guy, Wink Chapman. I mean, he played a big part in me doing this. Such a great guy. And came down, had my discovery day. And from that point, it clicked. I knew it was something that I could eventually use to leave Spectrum. As good as it's been here, sales is cutthroat and it's high intensity, high stress. So, my goal, like Ron said, is to eventually be able to kind of sit back, not work Spectrum, and also not be so hands-on with Two Maids. But our store's grown fast, and with that comes challenges, which we can get into in a little bit. But it's been a fun ride so far.
Got it. All right, so I'm going to allow you guys to have your own question session here in a minute, but I always like to ask a few. This is as fun for me as it is interesting for you guys. So Josh, talk to everyone. You talked about your background. Um, I'd love for you to just kind of talk to everyone about life, the first 30 days, as a franchisee. What kind of challenges did you undergo? What surprises happened, both positive or negative? What was life like it for you and your wife during that first month?
For us, it was balls to the wall. I mean, as you see, we took off running, and our problem was, and I don't know how many of these candidates, I don't know how many guys you've talked to in the network as far as validation calls, but one thing that's going to be consistent, which everyone knows is a network-wide issue, and it's really just nationally, it's a workforce issue, is the workforce and the employees, and it's harder now than ever to get them. And for us, we opened the doors with 4 cleaners. Our first week, we had enough work for 2 full teams, and 2 of our cleaners quit. And Emily and my manager, which is also my sister, and myself, we were all out there for the first 30 days. Those 2 were cleaning with the 2 that stayed. I was in, kind of sprinkled in a few days here and there, but we finally were able to get a couple more good ones in. My first 30 days is just, it was nuts. It was hard. It sucked. I'm not going to lie. But we were able to finally get a couple more in that stayed, and we got a little ahead of the game when it comes to employees. And then again, 60 days after that, we kind of fell backwards a little bit, but
Yeah, in Josh's case, his growth was astounding. Like it was. So all of that's true. What Josh said is absolutely true. However, that's not typical. We don't usually grow overnight like we did in your office. I mean, it was hard for us to even believe,
yeah,
And
I don't
so,
think I talked to probably 10 to 12 franchise owners, and not one of them had experienced this kind out of the gate. I mean, it was shocking. It was good, but again, good comes with bad too. So
right, yeah, fast growth is good
but
and
again,
bad,
that's a
right?
testament to you guys and your system and your marketing, and that just like it's crazy to as quickly that we were hearing about people saying, "Oh, I heard a lot about Two Maids," or "This person said this," and it's kind of wild to see how fast our name got out there and how quickly things came in.
So life started to get a little bit easier once you just sort of got your feet wet and kind of knew what you were getting yourself into and living the life and learning
Yeah,
from mistakes. What has when was your grand opening day? And I'm trying to remember the actual
November 23rd. Yeah.
yeah. And so what has life been like since after you kind of recovered from the shock of the first month?
It's been better, but there's been a lot of the same challenges still. Like I said, we've got a big supply and demand issue over here when it comes to how rapidly leads are coming in and how sales are just really flying up. And our cleaners, we've got a good crew now, but now we're kind of experiencing some timing issues. And how fast we've grown, I think maybe our training is a little bit lacking. It's training takes time, as you know. So we've got to struggle. And we had Anna out here, our field rep, and she's great. And she kind of worked with us last week, but we're trying to find a way to balance our schedule and our market. It's so spread out between the Temple, Killeen, Waco area. It's hard for us to really figure out our schedule right now. So that's our biggest challenge today, is trying to figure out a way to get these girls where they're not working, a few nights they're out till like 6:30 because drive time is so long. So we've got 2 starting tomorrow, 2 more teed up in 2 weeks. Hopefully that'll help us play with our schedule more and figure that out. But I haven't been in the field, cleaning for a month and a half. That's been great. Emily hadn't done it either. So we've definitely improved in that area.
So that's such a good segue. What is a day in the life like? What do you do? You and your
Well,
wife kind of tag team to own the place. What do
she
you
does.
guys do on a regular basis
Yeah, I
to
mean,
manage
Emily,
it?
I'm still here Spectrum full time, so I'm less involved in the day to day. Emily has been great. She's killed it on the phones and on the leads. Her and Gloria. If I've learned anything from being in sales for the past 8 years, it's that when people like spending money, there's no shock there. And when they're ready to buy, they want to do it now. So one thing that I kind of stressed before we opened and throughout those first couple months was I want to make sure leads aren't going longer than an hour without being contacted. And phone calls, I want to get phone calls before it hits a call center, just because we can convert them a lot easier. And Emily has been amazing on the phones. Gloria too, but again, she's been in the field almost every day since we've opened, training or cleaning. Facebook at night messages will come in. It'll be 11 o'clock, and Emily's replying and sending quotes. So I think getting out in front of people when they are ready to spend their money is a huge, huge reason why we've been able to just grow like we have. I mean, I don't think we've done anything special, anything out of the ordinary that all the other franchise owners are doing. I mean, we got the same tools they have, but um, I think the biggest thing is just being responsive.
How many people are working with you guys now?
We've got 4 full teams. We've got 2 starting tomorrow. We've got one today that decided her last day was going to be yesterday. That was fun. But hey, it happens. So we've got, we should have 10 fully trained by this time next week.
Right. And like in terms of positive things that have happened that just you didn't see coming, like what are some of the things that were a little shocking to you that turned out to be really good news after it all went down?
I mean, the fact that our sales numbers are not, they're at what our month 16 projection was. We're there now in month 5 or month 6. That's positive. I mean, that's it. The break even point came so much quicker that relieved a lot of stress for me. Now there are other stresses, but I think anyone opening a business and spending the money that it takes, that your number one concern is, when am I going to stop losing
Right.
money? And that came so soon for us. That was the biggest positive, I think.
So a big question I have for you, and then I'll let some other folks kind of take over here. So a lot of you may not know this, but the Waco area is home to a large home service franchise organization, and obviously there's a lot of positive branding locally that comes because of that. And we were really excited about that challenge because obviously we've never had to overcome something like that before. We may go into a market where there's a few local competitors, but it's not the home office. It's not the franchisor that has 25, 30 years of experience behind them. But in Waco, that is the case. And so you're coming in, this upstart new franchise, taking off pretty quickly, has competing against the giant. Has that been a real issue? Have you even thought about it since you've opened?
No, not so much. I mean, again, we are probably 40 minutes from Waco, and I know there's a lot of customers. Can't remember if it's Molly Maids or Mary Maids. I think Mary Maids is the one owned by them, Neighborly, I believe. So
Right.
we have taken a lot of their customers in this market. Now, Waco, we are set to open a second store in Waco by December of next year. I guess that's my timeline, but we've gotten and we're not even really putting any of our marketing budget in Waco right now. And we've gotten lots of interest and calls and stuff. I mean, we've got a few customers out there. So really, when we start actually attacking that market, I feel like it's going to probably be even better than this one, which will be good. But at this point, I don't see any reason or any cause for concern just because of what's happened so far.
Yeah, I hear a lot from franchise candidates where they're just worried. Like they literally Google maid services in their local area, and a dozen people pop up that look like they've been around forever.
Yeah.
And the fear is like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to be better than these guys? They've been around forever. It sounds like you've been taking some customers from those folks.
Yeah, we have. And I mean, there's been a couple. Again, I think it comes down to being responsive and available when they need you. There's been a few times Emily has taken a call and she's booked it on the phone, and it's simply because we're the only company that answered. The one guy was like, "Hey, I've got 4. You're the only one that answered, so let's do it. I don't want to call around anymore." So again, I think that has more to do with our growth than really competition overall.
And where do you set yourself price wise in the marketplace? Are you at the top end, average?
I mean, we're we're above average. I mean, we get a lot of, whoa, I only pay a portion of that now, but a lot of our competition out here is mom and pop. So they don't have the same expenses and the overhead we have that kind of drives our price up a little more. They're able to do it a lot cheaper. But um, yeah, I mean, I know we're definitely above average. We're right in line with the other franchise companies, but
Right.
yeah.
What is that? Do you mind talking about what that means for wages for your employees? Where do they?
So that was a little bit of a struggle in the beginning because again, with our timing issues, they were going way over what they should have on these cleans. And I don't know if they had to do a training or just, maybe we weren't booking a deep clean before the maintenance like we should have. But now that we've gotten better, I mean, they're hitting the between 13 and 15 an hour now that they're finishing on time and getting full schedules. So in the beginning, it was a struggle. They were averaging 9 to 11, and it was hard to kind of keep them and make that argument. But I think that's going to improve over the next couple months.
Well, I'm going to give some folks an opportunity to ask some questions. I know everybody's itching to know how to replicate your success and all those sleepless nights you've had trying to figure out how to make the next day work. Everybody that wants to start a business wants to live through those. So I know that a lot of folks here want to ask you a few questions. I'll come back and have some follow-up questions afterwards as well. So if you have a question, there's a couple ways to ask it. One, I don't know how to do it, but there's a way to raise your virtual hand here, or we could really be old school and you could like literally raise your hand, and I'll let you ask that question, and Josh will take it from there. So I got like a bunch of other questions that I could keep on asking them. Well, why don't we stick together for a little bit, Josh?
Okay.
So,
hold on, I got one here real quick.
Okay,
Hey,
I'll
go
ask
ahead,
a
George.
question.
There we go. George, why don't you take it first, and we'll come to Daniel
Okay.
afterwards.
Sorry, I had a little technical difficulty here. Does Spectrum know that you're doing that you're working for Two Maids?
If there's my manager knows, he doesn't care. As far as, I mean, it really is Emily basically running this more than I am on the day to day. They do call me probably 50 times a day with questions and
Right.
kind of how to, kind of give them a little guidance on what I think. But yeah, I mean, Spectrum knows I do this.
Okay. And then the other thing is, and Ron, maybe one of you guys can answer it, is there anything in particular about this territory that he's in that stands out that would make it a good candidate? And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the work that they've put in and staying on top of things and being organized. I mean, that's a big part of it, but, stepping back and looking at it, this area, that he's in, it's kind of spread out, there's kind of 3 or 4 smaller cities there. So any of the demographic numbers jump out at you for this particular?
I mean, the same ones that would jump out really for any of the territories that we develop. I mean, we got to have people,
Right.
money, and pace of life, and so if those 3 factors are present in a territory, then we're excited about it. And in Josh's territories, they are definitely more spread out. I mean, just distance wise, there's separation, but even demographically, there's separation between the communities.
Yeah.
But the more people, I'll let Josh kind of talk about the local area, but we want more people. The more people is good. We want more money. More money is good. And then we want people to be working. There are markets, for instance, in more tourism-based economies, there's less cash flow in those communities. And so there may be a lot of wealth there, but not enough cash flow to justify our type of business. And so all 3 of those exist in Josh's territory.
Okay.
And I
And
will say
then
when
Josh, what you kind of mentioned a little bit about some of the competitors, and you're taking work away from them. I like that. That's good. So you're doing a good job on that.
So on the demographics, I will say one of my big concerns before I did this, because I they'll send you information and charts and kind of how that compares to other territories. This is one of the smallest, and that was my biggest concern. I was worried that there wasn't going to be enough qualified households to make this work. And as you can see, that's, it's more than enough here. So I don't think that if you're looking at strictly on household counts, you know, I don't think they'd put something in a territory in front of you that probably wouldn't work. I mean, in my opinion.
So you mean, when you say smallest, you mean by the number of households in your area?
Right. Yeah. Qualified households. I believe it was, you know, dual income, 80 grand or higher is anything above that is a qualified household. And, you know, I was below 100 grand in my territory, and every other successful, I wanted a chart of, let me see what the top tier, you know, the top 25% of your stores, and they were all well over that. So, you know, that concern is long gone now, you know, from what we've seen.
Okay, but maybe some of those numbers were based on the 2010 census. I mean, I don't know. And that's probably a booming area here, let's say in the last 10 or 11 years. So maybe,
Sure.
you know, there's a lot of new people coming into town, and a lot of those, I mean, are you seeing people moving in that need your service like straight away? I'm sure you're seeing some of that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's hard to say. Yeah, of course, I think most everywhere is booming now with what COVID caused everyone to move everywhere. But yeah, I mean, we're growing just like any other area. And I think it's just a mix. It's a majority of our customers are customers that have had previous cleaners. So, I mean, I think there's a good mix there of what we get.
Okay.
Dan, I think you had a question.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about lead generation and database marketing. Are you doing more with Google, or are you doing more with Facebook, or who's driving the customer into the franchisee?
Google. I mean, I think hands down, Google, everyone goes to Google. I know myself included. If I ever want anything or need anything, first place I go is Google. So our leads were just, you know, I remember I talked to Katie, the marketing girl out there, and I think the average monthly lead submission for a new store months 1 through 3 was around 95 a month. And we were pulling in between 120 and 150 a month. So, I mean, it was just incredible how quickly leads were being generated. And I wasn't spending any more than the required minimum. So it's just, it works very well. Facebook, we did have a lot through Facebook. I mean, we book probably 20% of our customers are booked directly through Facebook. You know, I mean, our messages are just, our inbox is crazy what we've been able to do through that as well. So, I mean, there are things I want to do as far as following up on leads, kind of how I do here at Spectrum. But again, our growth has been so fast. I'm afraid if I go follow up and we start pulling in a lot of the old leads, I'll be out there cleaning again. So I'm trying to hold back on that for now.
So when you call somebody and you leave them a voicemail, are you able to get them back on the phone, or what's your fall off rate?
That's hard to say. That'd be more of an Emily question. I'm not really in the office every day doing that, but yeah, I will say most of the leads that we call, I do leave voicemails. It's when they call back, you've got to be there to pick up the phone, because that's when you're going to get them. So, you know, that it's
right.
I know our conversion rate is, you know, above average, I believe. So, I mean, these guys are calling back at some point, and we're taking them.
So obviously labor is your biggest problem. Is that really your biggest issue?
It is, which again, if you just drive down the road for 5 minutes, you'll see labor is an issue with every single business out there right now. Everyone's hiring. So yeah, that's it.
Right.
I mean, business is good.
No, I understand.
Yeah, managing labor is our challenge.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a question.
Hit me.
You said your territory is kind of spread out. About how far is it drive time for your cleaners to get to those jobs? Is it are they driving 45 minutes, or are they driving 30?
I think our furthest customer to this point has been around 50 minutes one way from our office, which, you know, going out that direction is towards Killeen and Copper's Cove. We do have a lot of customers on that route, so we're able to work that in. But anything above 45 minutes, I'm a little reluctant to take on unless there's something else on the way. But yeah, I mean, I wish we were like Angela down here in Round Rock. I mean, they're within 15, 20 minutes of every single customer, and
Right.
they're killing it. So it's probably a lot easier to manage their schedule.
That would be something in our area. Being rural Georgia, sometimes we'll probably have a little bit of a distance there to cover.
And I think early on, there's no reason not to take it. I mean, because your schedule is probably pretty scarce anyway, so there's no reason you can't fit it in there. And I think down the road, when you're really struggling with the schedule and there's just so much going on, it may be a little harder to take those jobs. But for now, I don't see any reason in really turning away anything.
Okay.
Hey, Josh, have you had to actually turn jobs away?
Well, we have, just because they'll need it, and we're booked out. I mean,
Right.
we had a deep clean yesterday. We had to kind of put a tentative on there because she wanted it this week or next week, and our first available deep clean is 3 weeks from now, which
Dang.
this morning we did have a cancel next Friday, so we called her and got her back on the schedule. But that's the only reason we have to turn away, is because we're booked solid and they don't want to wait on it. But
Right.
again, we're trying to get ahead and get enough staff to where we can take same day and next day appointments and have room for that on the schedule. So again,
So you're booked.
as we figure things out better.
So you're booked out for even small jobs for the next.
Yeah, even small jobs. I mean, we've got 4 teams booked solid through this week and next week, and that's again while we're hiring 2 more tomorrow, and hopefully that trend continues.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Kenny, you have a question?
I do, yes. Just going back to the leads. So when these leads come in and being in sales, such as myself being in sales, how are you actually converting these leads? Do you have some sort of script, a sales pitch that you're giving to the potential consumer to actually have them sign up with you?
Well,
what's your method?
Yeah, no, they give you that. In training, you'll get some scripts you can use. I mean, for us, it's just an easy conversation. I mean, how can we help? These are our packages. A lot of these guys, with everything being online and digital now, they pretty much know what we offer before we talk to them. So they kind of know what they're looking for. But yeah, I mean, the system is great. As you're going through and giving quotes and you put the information in there, there's little notes and it kind of gives you a high level overview of each cleaning. So it's a lot easier to talk to these things. But really it's just, you just have a conversation and it'll just flow pretty easily.
Right, but what about the objections? Because obviously, the consumer is going to say, "Oh, well, I know this person that cleans. They're giving me this price." How are you overcoming the objections when they present that to you guys?
Our pay for performance obviously is a big reason. That's kind of their almost like their peace of mind that we're going to give a good quality clean. But you got to let them know these girls are human too. So when we make mistakes, we do guarantee a reclean. We're going to make sure they're satisfied. And I mean, that along with just the reliability, not being a mom and pop, even if people call in or something happens, we've got backups that can still make the clean happen on the scheduled time. So, a lot of people, if you're very personable and you seem like you're responsive, a lot of people are going to buy in just based on that.
Yeah, just to kind of add on to that, Kenny, well, it's been a little crazy over the last several months, and crazy. It's always been very high demand, this industry, but the demand that we've seen kind of post lockdowns across most communities has been stronger than I've ever seen. I mean, again, I've never seen a year pass in this industry in all 18 years where this year was not better than the last year. But the tickets are bigger now. I think in the old days, meaning 13, 14 months ago, people really wanted us to make their house pretty, smell good. They still want that, but they want us to keep it safe and healthy now. And they're willing to pay someone like us a few extra dollars to protect their home and have peace of mind. Whereas in the old days, they just really felt like anybody could do it. It's just cleaning, And so that's really benefited us in a weird way, because COVID hasn't really helped many people, but it didn't help us in the springtime, but it's helped us post lockdowns. So Josh, couple questions for me. So we've talked about some of the challenges of fast growth and all the craziness that comes with that. All these guys may be walking, in the same shoes that you've already walked. Now that you've kind of got your feet wet, what type of advice would you give these guys, both during the pre-open process, the couple months that they're going to be working to get open, to even afterwards, after the grand opening?
I would just, if I don't know if these guys are opening, owner operator or semi-absentee or what their situation is, but knowing what I know, I would just make sure, even if you don't have the staff, just make sure someone is available to be there when the customer needs you. There's not much more to it than that. I mean, that's all we've done and it's worked. So, I mean, that's really it. I wish I had more for you, but that's kind of been my formula. Just be there.
Well, I'm going to lead a question here, and so hopefully the answer is good. But I love to hear feedback on what we've done as a franchisor, from the technology and tools that we provide to the actual support that we provide. What's your thoughts on the relationship with us in the first year of business?
10 out of 10. I mean, it's from opening. I mean, it's very straightforward. They lay it out for you on what you need to do to open your business. Now, a lot of my pre-opening issues had nothing to do with Two Maids. If you remember, Ron, I had an issue with the state and my LLC and the IRS. They didn't like each other. And then when COVID happened, the IRS shut down, and that put me on like a 4-month delay. But once we got past that, I mean, you laid it out. It was very easy on what I needed to do, when I needed to do it. Our timeline was, on par all the way through opening. Post opening, there hadn't been a time where I didn't get a, same day within an hour response when I needed something. Our field rep is great. Again, we had some timing and cleaning issues, and 2 weeks later, she's out here for 3 days assessing what we're doing and kind of giving us a plan to move forward and fix that. Financially, I mean, all that stuff is taken care of. You guys are good at pulling what you need when you need it. And I mean, as far as running the business, from a high level, I hadn't had to do much besides just make sure my account's there and make sure my phone's on. So.
Well, one thing I love about you, Josh, is you're extremely humble. All the things you've talked about, really, I know you feel like there's no big deal, but it's a pretty dang big deal, and what you built in a short amount of time is a testament to you and your wife's work ethic, and so the fact that you even know you're working hard sounds a lot. It reinforces the decision that we made when we invited you into the network here. I also love the fact that not only did Josh have to go through some funding issues early on, he had to make a decision on a business opportunity, just like you guys are, where we're strangers to him. Sure, he talked to franchisees like you guys are, but we're still strangers, and sending money to a stranger with the hope that we're going to do our part to help their business grow. That by itself is a lot to weigh on. Throw in all the funding issues, and of course, throw in COVID. Josh and his wife Emily stayed strong through all of that, and we knew that whenever he opened, he would be successful, mainly because of what they went through just to make the decision. So, Josh, thank you for not just joining our network, but thank you for improving the brand stronger across the country because of you and your wife. And so thank you for putting all the work and sweat equity into it.
Yeah, no, same here. I mean, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy you guys accepted us, and being so young and so early on in our store, hopefully I was able to help some of you guys with what you're going through. So yeah, I appreciate it.
I got one last question. So if you could go back, we could all go backwards and do 2020 over. But outside of that, if you could go back and rethink the decision, what would you still make the decision to open a Two Maids A Mop?
Oh yeah, without question. Again, I was before we opened, I was on maybe a 5-year plan to be able to leave Spectrum. And then over the past 4 months, I mean, I think I can probably cut that in half. I may be able to walk away from here and live the dream a lot sooner based on what's happened. So yeah, I'm very confident in where we're going and where we'll end up.
Man, that's good to hear. Well, congratulations on everything. And when you start sipping those Mai Tais and fishing every day, let me know. I'm headed
Playing
over.
golf.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
All right, guys. Good to see everyone. Chad, go Dogs.
Go Gators.
There you go.
Okay.
We'll talk later.
You
Okay.
probably have us covered this year.
We'll see. Hopefully.
We'll see.
Yeah, you got a quarterback. That's the key to everything.
I like this, Daniel. Let's stick around and talk. All right, guys. You have a wonderful
All right,
day.
we'll talk to you later.
Hopefully we have a chance to meet soon.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.